So today we're going to be covering my first place Examon deck profile that I played during the 2.5 celebration event. This is the winner's prize that you receive for it. It is the 4-cost Yuki. This is the nice foil version. And I just figured, hey, I'll show it because it's a lovely card. I ended up going 4-0 with some pretty tough matchups here and there that this deck managed to just weed through. But this deck is really fun. If nothing else, if absolutely nothing else, it is just one of the most fun decks I've played in a good while. The gimmick is fantastic. The Slayerdramon really is the glue that holds the deck together, but it's really consistent. I rarely bricked. I always felt like I had an option to do something. So yeah, we're going to get into the deck profile, and I'm just going to leave this kind of over here, just as a reminder that this was for the celebration event. But first of all, of course, we are going to be starting with the 4 BT20 Babidamon. It's just draw. It's a really good draw as well. It just says it's an unconditional draw 1 in this deck, which is really good. As a whole, because it states obviously Dracomon in text, and they basically all have that, which is fantastic. We absolutely love it, and plus the full art from the celebration packs as well. The box toppers just look fantastic. So that's it for eggs. Moving on to the rookies, we of course have the Dracomon at a 4 of. This card is absolutely ridiculous. It's the best searcher in the deck. It searches Examons and searches any card with Dramon in its name. And of course, that is literally your entire deck besides replacing itself. This is the only one that searches Examon, though. And its inheritable is fine as well. Like, you don't love it for the inheritable, but you do love it because it's just a ridiculously efficient searcher. Yeah, it just works. And sometimes the 1k can come up, but not a crazy amount. Next, we play 4 BT20 Dracomon. So I never once used start of main phase effect for this card. It is essentially just this could be a vanilla and you still play it at 4 really, because it's a plus 2k inherit, which is absolutely fantastic. But better yet, it is it's red. Now this is important because we run quite a few red options and cards that care about red sources. But yeah, it's plain and simple. It's just a plus 2k inherit. And the final 3 rookies we play at 11 is 3 ST8 Dracomon. So this card searches for any Dramon. It searches most of your deck besides your top end. And besides Examon, pardon me. And ultimately, yeah, you could reasonably play the promo if you wanted to. I see 0 value from the promo, where at the very least this can nab me a missing piece. There was a few times where I really required a level 5, and this kind of got me there pretty quickly. There were times when I was going against Defx and just had to slam this to prevent my board from removing, but at the very least it replaced itself in hand. So it's just a very strong card still. And next up for the level 4s, we have 4 Corgimon and 4 of the green Corgimon. Now, these are once again basically vanillas. The raid of Corgimon actually does come up quite a bit because with the plus 2k inherit, you're raiding 7. And with some other buffs we get onto later, you can actually do some decent damage with this card. And you want to keep their board as small as possible to get as much value from your Slayerdramon, because the Slayerdramon is, once again, the glue that holds this deck together. And then the blue one is it's just a jamming inheritable. It never came up, but these both have plus 2k inheritables. And the Examon stacks I was swinging with were easily 20k power, which is absolutely insane. And then the final one is the EX3 Corgimon, the one that gives evade. Initially I was playing the blocker, but due to some option changes, I switched it out for this one because it's more consistently searchable. But the evade came up a lot. I had a stack of Slayerdramon with this underneath it, and my opponent could just not out it at all, which was really fortunate for me because, at the end of the day, the Slayerdramon then suspends itself and re-unsuspends itself. So you've got 2 procs of evade. And it's nice for those stacks that aren't Examon himself, who obviously has evade inherently. For our level 5s, we have 4 Wingdrill. This card is absolutely fantastic. It's a on-play when Digivolving, pop a 6k, and both this and the Groundramon that we're going to get onto later have the all-turns effect of counting as the level 6 of the deck, which means you can Jogress Digivolve on top of these, which came up a lot. came up quite a few times where your opponent doesn't expect it and you can just really punish it. But the 6K does reasonably come up once again just for keeping those boards small. I'm using the option, it's only a 6 cost, so it's not too bad. And then the other one is, of course, the Gallantmon, which is arguably the better Evo most of the time. We prefer the inheritable of the Wingdramon because it is a sec +1 inherit. So you can close out games faster and it makes your Examon a 4-checker, which is absolutely terrifying. But the Gallantmon is more consistent. It taps down a Digimon and then it can't unsuspend, and once again it's treated as the Breakdramon for Jogress, and then when it deletes a Digimon in battle, inheritable, burns off. So it doesn't really matter which one you Evo into. They both have insane value. This one kind of requires you to control the board a bit, but since the Examon X has raid, you can do that pretty easily. And yeah, pretty simple stuff. Moving on to our 6s, we have 3 copies of EX3 Slayerdramon. As I've kind of stated many times now, this is absolutely the glue that holds the deck together. So if you don't know, when he taps himself, he just unsuspends all turns. So he can double evade, he can double block if you've got some way to give him blocker, like the EX3 Cordramon, the green one. But start of opponent's main phase, you can suspend himself or any of your Digimon to force one of your opponent's Digimon to attack, which is so good because you obviously trigger the effect, force a swing, and then you can just Jogress into Examon Ace. And it's arguably one of the most consistent ways to blast Evolve in the game. At least blast Jogress, besides, the Omnimon option. But we absolutely love this card. The reason we don't play it on 4 of is because 3 is very findable, and there is utility in the one of BT20 Slayerdramon. As much as we don't love it, as much as the other Slayerdramon, it's good for controlling the boards, and its inheritable is really nice into bottom deck and bounce matchups because it protects against anything once per turn, whereas Evade only protects against deletion. It doesn't protect against Digivolve, obviously. There's not much you can do about that. And of course, it's still got the restand effect, and it has piercing, which is completely fine. Our other level 6 of the deck is the one and only Breakdramon. So we play 4 of this. We don't play any of the X3 one because it's just a useless card. But don't play on Evo. Tap down 2 Digimon, and then one of your Digimon may attack. And this came up a lot. Being able to, with 2 inheritables underneath it, this is a 16k swing into any Digimon, and then when you delete a Digimon by battle, you can pop a suspended Digimon or Tamer. So you suspend a Tamer, you spend their body, you swing into it using Pseudo Blitz, and then you pop the Tamer, or pop whatever you didn't swing into. There was times where my opponent in my final round was Heavy Metal. I swung into his, the 4 he played out of the effect, and then pop the HeavyMetaldramon Ace using this effect instead of swinging into the Heavy Metal. And it's just a safer swing as a whole. And then its inheritable is fine. It didn't really come up at all. When any of your Digimon delete a Digimon in battle, you can delete a suspended Digimon or Tamer. Fine, not the worst, but you have no way to suspend after the initial Evo, so it doesn't really come up. But sometimes you can punish like Callboy, with the Gallantmon X matchup or the Takatos. But yeah, finally the big boss monster of the deck, the one and only. We have the 4 of Examon Ace. Now, I was considering playing 3. I'm so glad I played 4 because this guy was quite tricky to find at times, and he really is. Oh my god, he's so good. You absolutely have to find this card for this deck to work. So if you don't know, on Evo, if you Jogress, you bottom deck all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, and then all turns once per turn, he can unsuspend himself unconditionally. And he has Raid, Piercing, Blocker, and Evade. They basically looked at the 3 colors on his card and gave him all the best keywords from their lineup. But essentially your entire combo is to just get into this card as fast as possible because he is so difficult to remove for some decks. Even Mirage will have a difficult time removing this card because what can you really do against a card that has 2 procs of evade and potentially bounce protection as well? It just wins games, and plus he's massive, with a couple of inheritables, he gets easily 20. I think the big swing today was 22, 23. He's doing 2 free checks with the right inheritables as well. He's just an absolute menace, and once again, because of the Slayerdramon, you can very consistently DNA Digivolve into this guy. So we're not playing any of the EX3 secret rare. If you wanted to, you could cut one of these for that, because the option doesn't specify you need to Jogress into this or well, no, just not into the ACCEL. So you can sometimes catch people out, and the old one still has the power of playing out the body. So playing out a second Breakdramon and then kind of punishing and doing some more swings is nice. Plus, you then set up a body for a second for the actual ace Jogrus. But I ultimately just didn't really see too much of a need for it. The ace is so strong in and of itself, and bottom deck removal is just not something this deck really needed, but came up a lot. It helped me in my Gallantmon X matchup because I could bottom deck his stack and then he couldn't replace it with Gallantmon, which would be something that we would struggle to deal with. Next up, options and tamers. We have a 3 of offense training. This card, I mean, I really needs no introduction. Basically, it's just consistent. Just a consistency piece, and it searches most of the deck besides your blue rookie and your green blue rookie. Next, we have my favorite card in the deck, Wisteria Memory Boost. I was initially playing Jade because, like everyone, I saw green and blue and was like, oh, okay, of course. But Wisteria doesn't whiff a single card in the deck. There is not one card, there's not one Digimon in the deck that this doesn't search, whereas Jade whiffs your red Dracomon. But this hits it. This hits it. So absolutely, if you're considering playing this deck, if I had one piece of advice for you, it would be play this over Jade. Because this is the absolute MVP searcher. It does not whiff, it cannot whiff. It is fantastic. And then next we play 2 Unleash the Dragon Gene. I don't think I actually ever played this. The idea is you go into your 6, and then you activate this, and you play down a 5, and then when they would try and remove either body, you trash this, and then you Jogrus Digivolve to protect them. But none of my matchups required that. I basically always had the Slayerdramon set up so I could force a Jogrus swing. But the protection is nice. If you hit it in life, then you're pretty happy because you can cheat out just like a rookie and start building a new stack. But I wouldn't play any less. I think there's some matchups where this will absolutely come up. Like, once again, the Gallantmon X matchup, just being able to say absolutely not and protecting your body whilst also then punishing what they're doing is super nice. And finally, we do play 3 tamers. We are playing 2 Hero from BT8 and 1 Davis. Now, I would like to preface, this card was supposed to be BT18 Owen Dreadnought, who, when a security card is checked, you can suspend him to pop a 4K or lower, which was nicer for board control and, you know, really forcing the Slayerdramon to get value. However, I could not for the life of me source any. And in a rush, I really wanted a red tamer so I could consistently hit my trainings. So I just decided Hero because DP is never a bad thing. Once again, I was swinging, you know, 11 with a raid with the level 4, and my Examons were getting massive because of this. But yes, if I did have the option, I would play Orange Dreadnought because I think he is a better utility tamer. And then Davis as the one-off. He searches most of the deck. He whiffs the red rookie, as we've established. I don't think I ever played him, but I also wouldn't cut him for another hero because at the end of the day, he is still one of the best blue-green tamers in the game. But yes, that's the deck profile. As you can see, it's a bit funky. You know, there's not a lot of lists that are running like the red tamers and the offense trainings and whatnot. But I assure you, you will probably see success with this deck. All you have to do is get into Slayerdramon and go effectively. And this deck is really good at punishing decks that care so much about their just doing their one big turn. My first matchup was DexDorugoramon, and I completely locked him out of the game by refusing to let him raise, because when he would raise, just suspend either Jogrus, but not even because he has D-Digivolve, and just force the rookie to kill itself. And he gets no value from any of his cards. It was so strong. My second matchup was ACCEL, and the exact same thing happened. He couldn't raise to get the body on board to then, you know, activate the options to cheat out his 6s. And it was absolutely ridiculous. My game 3 against Gallantmon, which was a very difficult matchup. I got very lucky, admittedly, winning that one. But in game 3, I set up the Slayerdramon, and he was forced to just sit and do nothing because he knew I could just immediately Jogrus. So he had to set up a new stack, investing a lot of memory, and then I just ended up removing that one, and I basically OTK'd him by doing, you know, 4 checks with Slayer and then just Jogrus the Breaker. And boom, yeah. By the time he had set up his 1 stack, I'd set up 2, and you just win the game from that point. And then my final matchup was HeavyMetaldramon, which was completely fine. There was very few issues. The evade's really useful in the matchup because the EX7 heavy metal is actually quite a problem. But yeah, I would say this deck's relatively affordable. I think the most expensive card is of course going to be the Examon Ace, it being the newest at about £5. But if you want to try something out for your locals, you know, something a little bit fringe competitive, I would absolutely recommend this deck. It is a ton of fun. Sadly, of course, this is in a bit of a different style than my usual videos because it's not on DCGO. It is on Idrisil, but I really don't like using that that client. So sadly, I have no games for you, but I just wanted to show you guys that this deck is absolutely a beast and it's something to be contended with. So thank you very much for watching.